This is Eastman's Elevated Podcast. I have on great guests that are really knowledgeable, consistently successful. We're able to dive deep down the rabbit holes of these different subject matters of shooting, of physical fitness, of mental toughness and drive. All the different skills that make up a complete hunter that you can become.
Here's your host, Brian Barney.
Hey, what's happening, guys? Got a brand new Eastman's Elevated for you. So on today's episode, I have back on my friend Russ Carone. Russ is such a great bow hunter, such a great, intelligent approach to bow hunting, and so I always just have the best conversations with Russ, and so today's no different. Russ has an elk tag in a brand new spot. I'm hunting deer in a brand new spot this year, and so we talk a lot about trying to learn a new place. And then, of course, we get into, hunting these different habitats and how that improves our skill set, and also just trying to balance like such a passion for bow hunting and wild places with also our responsibilities and work and family and things. So just made for a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. I think you guys will enjoy it too. We'll get right into it. Just want to thank a couple sponsors. I want to thank Matthews Bows. Man, I'm loving this new Phase 4. I got this thing shooting so good. It's my favorite bow. Favorite bow I've owned. The thing is really forgiving. And so Matthews, like when you get a good tune into that bow, which I work really hard at, it keeps that tune for years. It stands up to all the abuse I throw at it with the backcountry. Super forgiving. They just really accurate, good shooting bows, great performance with their mod system. They get good performance out of all draw lengths, and also the quietest bow I've ever shot. Animals don't even hear it go off. And there's a conversation over on Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal that I had with Dan Bakar where he just shot a couple axes, which are notorious for jumping the string. And he was able to shoot those, and the other deer had no idea that he had even shot. And I ran into that same thing in Australia, ran into that same thing where guys were 30, 40 yards behind me as I was shooting and didn't know I shot. So just the quietest bow on planet Earth, which gives me a real advantage for the species I hunt, like mule deer, like antelope, like axis, that are notorious for jumping the string. So Matthews, absolute game changer, great shooting bow. Just go out and shoot one, see if it fits you, see if you like it. But I love it for all this Western hunting. So check them out, Matthews. I also want to thank Sig Sauer Optics. Man, I'm loving these new image stabilizing binos. These things are a game changer. So I've got the 12 by 42s. I've also got the 16 by 42s. The 16 by 42s are so light, and there's word that they're going to come out with 20, so I can't wait to get my hands on those. They also have a set of 10 by 32s. I would love to try those as well, because the 10 bys is what I've been using the past couple years in the older models of the image stabilizing binos, and they've done great for me. But man, they put their higher end glass in there. Just great mechanical advantage, like being able to get on a windy ridge and have a total stable image is, like I say, it's a game changer. I think one of the biggest revolutions in the hunting industry in the last 10 years or 20 years. These things are amazing. So if you're in the market for some new glass or some new binos, check them out. This new version is really good in low light, high-end glass, crisp image. Just so impressed by them. They also have standard binos, so like tripoding up their 15s is amazing, really good high-end glass. Also use their 10 by 42s for quite a few years, so you can check those out as well. Best rangefinders in the market. The Hilo 6. Is that what it's? Hold on. It's the Kilo 5K. Gosh, it's too early in the morning. Kilo 5K rangefinder is amazing, man. Powerful laser to shoot through grass. It shoots the same range on light and dark targets. The thing just has accurate readings, and then it has a feature on it where you actually put in your bow speed for the cuts uphill and downhill, which is more accurate than a lot of the systems out there, as we all have different speeds. So also, check out all their products, rifle scopes, spotting scopes. You can check that out at sigsauer.com. Just a great company with great products. Also, check out Black Rifle Coffee Company. So we released that podcast last week with Cole Kramer and Jonathan and talked about that goat hunt. Black Rifle Coffee Company does so much for the outdoor industry and really supports all of us guys. So they just have the best coffee on planet Earth. I love their instant coffee is really good for when I'm hunting. It's actual freeze dried coffee, so it doesn't hurt my stomach, and then also tastes really good. And then they have great coffee roasts. So I'm part of their coffee club subscription, which is awesome. Like I get coffee every single month. I get all different roasts, so I get to try a bunch of different ones, like just black, and they've got like the best names for them. But just every single one of them is great coffee. So make sure to check out those guys at Black Rifle Coffee Company. I also want to thank Black Ovis, internet retail shop where you can get absolutely everything you need for your next hunt. They carry all the top name brands as well as their own name brand. You can check them out and you can save 10% if you use the code Elevated10. And also check out Camo Fire, addictive app that has 80 new hunting deals that comes up every 12 hours. But you can save a pile of money on overstock gear, and they carry top name brands as well. So check those guys out. Over at Eastmans, we're cruising. I think that our new season of Beyond the Grid is going to drop here. We've got backcountry mule deer episode of mine in the high country that's going to be an awesome one. I'm really excited to see the finished product of this film. Dan Picard's got some great ones as well. And so those will be coming up. You can find it at Eastman's Hunting TV and on the YouTube. And look at those episodes there. Make sure to check out Dan and I's new podcast. I'm really proud of this podcast. We're 5 episodes in. We're going to drop our 6th episode tomorrow. You have to search a different feed. Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal Podcast Edition will bring it up. And man, they're just all really good episodes. We're able to dive deeper down the archery rabbit hole and talk about a lot of stuff. So this week's a good episode. Man, we talk about bows and performance. We talk about our setups, kind of our tuning process. We dive into arrows, arrow weights, and our thoughts on it, fletchings, front end components. And then also talk about Dan's trip to Hawaii, spotting and stalking, and really building those stalking skills. Talk a bit about Dan's bear hunt on there, and then I'm going to be making a trip to Hawaii here before long. So it just made for a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. Like every episode's a good episode, so you can check that out. Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal Podcast Edition. And you can also check out our Tag Hub, get a free subscription to Mountain Tough Fitness, put in the promo code Brian. The mule deer course, absolutely everything I know about hunting mule deer, 25 years of experience hunting all different habitats, $99. It's such a deal and definitely going to further your learning curve if you have a mule deer hunt coming up. You can check that out. Just search Eastman's Mule Deer School and put in the promo code Brian MDC, and that'll save you 10% on that, make it $90. Such a deal. So check that out. And with that, let's get into this podcast. It's a great one with my buddy Russ Carone. Really like this guy. Really like our conversations. And man, let's get into it. I'm your host, Brian Barney. Eastman's Elevated. Here we go. I did see one the other day, black bear hunting though. I saw a sow and a couple cubs. Yeah, we ended up killing a black bear below her. We actually watched her and her cubs feed up on this top meadow, and then I watched a black bear come out in that top meadow and either see them or get their wind and took off running out of there. And then I'm not sure if it's the same bear or a different bear showed up in the meadow below those grizzly bears. And sitting there with my buddy Dan Haverin, and it was like, man, well, we got to go. It's like a good boar, and he's in a good spot. And so we sent it over there and, figured the winds would be coming downhill so she wouldn't catch our wind or anything, or, just hoping she's not going to wander down into us. And then my buddy Dan sent a perfect arrow through that bear and died down in the creek bottom. So we were down there with our headlamps working on him, hoping she wouldn't come down and find us down there, but she didn't. It was no big deal. We got him out of there.
Cool. Yeah. I saw that you guys got one the other day. That's pretty awesome. One of these days I'll do another spring bear hunt. It's just, I gotta 2 little kids, and I got to prioritize them until they get a little bit older. I think it'd be a fun trip for us to go on down the road. But for right now, I got to use the days that I have in September and November.
Yep. I hear you there. Yep. Same, not same with little kids, but just same on time. It's like I want to continue to do these adventures and these hunts, but yeah, I also have to limit myself as well. So yeah, trying to plan out my season, and it'll be like the last year that my college daughter is probably like living with us. So trying to prioritize that and spending quality time and get some adventures with her. And then my younger daughter is in high school and just so busy, just sports and friends and school and plays, and gosh, I mean, I hardly see her but for like an hour a day. So I definitely need to prioritize those girls like this summer and make sure that I'm doing a bunch of fun stuff with them before the fall kicks off.
Yeah, that's, it's such a fleeting time of parenthood where they're actually living in your house, and I'm learning that already. I mean, I've got a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and it just seems like the 3.5-year-old is still like my little baby, but he's becoming a little boy.
Man, it happens so quick.
Yeah.
So quick. Yeah, I mean, having my girls grown like that in high school and in college, man, it just happens in a blink of an eye. Yeah, you just try to soak it up and enjoy your time with them, and shape good little humans, but it sounds like you're definitely doing that.
Trying to, man. It's a crazy world that we're living in. So hopefully, I mean, it kind of stresses me out to think about what the world's going to look like when they're 20, but who knows?
Yeah, you can't control it. Just try to live our little lives and be happy, and try to raise them with like the right ethics and morals, and try to raise them to be tough or resilient. I guess tough maybe isn't the right word, but definitely resilient, and yeah, they'll do fine in this world. But it is a bit scary when you raise kids and love them so much, it's wild, dude. When they get a little bit older, like you don't mind if I just start recording, do you?
Oh, no, not
Yeah,
at all.
okay. It's wild, dude, when they get a little bit older, like in kindergarten and stuff. They're like 5 years old, and you've raised like these little humans, these little kids, but you've taken care of them almost for every hour of their life, either you or mom. And then in kindergarten, you just gotta turn them loose and go, okay, go to your class and go figure out your lunch number and figure out the other kids. And it's so tough to like give them that independence, and throughout the journey, whether it's kindergarten, whether it's high school, whether it's college and your daughter is moving out, it's like you got to give them like almost a little bit more independence than you want to give them, but it's like it's part of growing up.
Yeah, I used to be a K through 12 PE teacher, and I remember the first week when kindergartners came into school, they were like babies still, and it wasn't easy. I mean, I'd have like 30 kindergartners, and they're all like, they didn't have a clue how to be in school and how to behave and what expectations were. So it was a rodeo. It was like herding cats for the first few weeks, but by a month in, they were pretty dialed, and yeah, they're resilient, especially if you give them some opportunities to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're not teaching anymore, Russ?
No, I became a firefighter last year. I'm an EMT firefighter, and been doing that for a year now, and definitely loving it.
Oh, that's right. I think I did know that. Yeah, congratulations on the position. Yeah, man, it's awesome. It's like making these changes in life for like what we really want to do or what we enjoy, and life's one of those things where you can make the best laid plans, but you almost have to try things out and see how it fits or see what you like and then gravitate towards that.
Yeah, both my parents worked in schools when I was a kid, and that's the life that I knew. I played sports throughout my youth and played college baseball, and when I was done, I kind of figured that I wanted to coach baseball, but that's not really a great profession unless you want to put in a lot of years as a college assistant to make a living out of it. So I said, you know what, I think I'll get a master's in teaching and teach PE, do that, and coach on the side. And I did it for 8 years after I got my master's, and really enjoyed it. built some great relationships with kids and still talk to them to this day and even go fishing with some of them. So it was a great time of life. And once I had kids, I kind of wanted to reassess and think about what I wanted to do long term. And I want to pour more into my own kids than other people's kids. So I felt as though a career change was in order. And being a firefighter, you have a lot more time off, and I'll be able to take vacations with my kids when I want to, and not just during spring break and winter break and summer vacation. And it'll be a good life for the kids and for me to be able to spend time with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, we were talking a bit before the podcast. It's that college baseball player is like one of my good hunting buddies. Dylan Ness was a college ball player, and we were talking about the similarities between that we find through sports or through work and the correlations to hunting and to fly fishing and things. And I think you college baseball players, like you transition really well to bow hunting just because it's like you have to be so clutch in these big moments, whether it's baseball or whether it's bow hunting, to be able to make your shot or to perform to the best of your abilities with all the pressure on. Do you feel like it translates, like your college ball days translates really well to bow hunting?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if I was the most clutch player, but the beautiful thing about baseball is there's always the next game, there's always the next at bat. And when I first started bow hunting, I used to get pretty frustrated in terms of like if I made a bad shot or if I missed or if I blew a stalk, because you work so hard for each opportunity. And maybe the next opportunity is 10 days down the road and another 50 miles of hiking and 20,000 feet of elevation gains just to get that opportunity. So if you look at it that way, then it gets you down. But if you just look at it as like, well, that was a good experience. I learned, wasn't meant to be. And I've got my next opportunity. I just got to work for it and I'll get it the next time. And that's kind of how hitting is when you get up to the plate. You got to believe in yourself and you do your best, but it doesn't always work out. So you just turn the page. You got to have a selective memory in baseball, and you got to have a selective memory in bow hunting.
Oh man, it's so true. Yeah. A selective memory. Like I want to dive into that. I just like it reminds me of you hunting your late season muleys, and I remember, this is pretty far in your bow hunting journey, so probably not where you're getting super frustrated, but I remember you were chasing a good buck and you had him at like 90 yards and you passed on the shot and you kind of second guessed her, like asked like, gosh, maybe I should have taken that shot, or maybe I should have tried to make that shot, or you kind of played it over in your head and you didn't end up killing that buck that year. But I remember the next year you went back to that late season spot and arrowed a great buck. Like you're right, it is, you try your best to be clutch in those moments, but the truth is that all of us fail, all of us make mistakes. It doesn't always come together, no matter how good it's like kind of the beauty of bow hunting, but that you will get another opportunity, and whether it's that season or whether it's the next season, but boy, you sure made right on it. It's like perfect case in point of what you're talking about.
Yeah, and going back even further, I think it was 2 years before that 200-incher that I was chasing. I had like a 170-inch, probably 8 or 10-year-old troll that I was chasing for, I guess, from about November 5th to December 15th, off and on, just on the weekends, driving out there and getting after him. And I turned him up basically, I think 13 out of 15 days that I hunted him. And this was the first time that I actually hunted that area and that style with just no cover, not a whole lot of terrain, lots of eyeballs, lots of noses. And those does kind of act like sentries. They just they'll bed on a leeward side of a slope and they'll just face each 5 degrees differently so that they can cover the whole expanse and that they're fully protected. It's like Mission Impossible to get in on a buck. So I learned so many lessons from that deer. I missed him, Brian. This is something I used to be embarrassed about, but I actually think it's kind of great now. But I missed him 6 times with my bow. over those 15 days, and various reasons, missed ranges, too much adrenaline, too fast of an opportunity, like as he's chasing a doe by me. Maybe a couple shots that were too far. And one time even like he was in some yuccas and bedded down and an arrow deflected off the yuccas. So it was just an epic poop show. But I learned so much about the mule deer in that area, how they work it, how the bucks act throughout November and throughout the rut, that since that buck I've killed 4 in that area as a result of all the lessons that I was taught by that buck. So I think there's a lot to be said about failure in the sense that it's an opportunity. It's a beautiful way to get better. And in the moment it sucks, but in hindsight, looking back, that was 4 years ago or 3 years ago, I'm not sure. Yeah, I was pretty bummed at the time, but looking back now, I'm pretty grateful for that deer.
Man, so awesome, Russ. Like we've all been there. It is like tough to admit. Like I'm glad you can admit it. Like I've been there as well. Like at my very lowest, yeah, I think it's good. It's like the only reason I'm any good at bow hunting is because I've failed every way possible. I've missed every shot. I've messed up every stalk. I've gone to the wrong areas. Like I don't. It's just it is a learning curve or a learning experience, and it is those failures. Like it's a prerequisite to success. I don't think anybody, no matter how much you shoot, no matter how hard you practice, I think everybody's got to go through some stage of that where you do miss and you do mess up, and it's like easy to sit here and talk about it or talk about making a shot, but when you're in that moment or adrenaline filled, like being able to be your best behind your bow shooting at an animal is really difficult. So we get really proficient and we practice, and we can always put our arrow in the spot on a target in our flip-flops at all these different distances and on angles and even 3D shoots or shooting with buddies. Like I could shoot really good, but then when I transitioned to animals, like trying to get a hold of myself and put my best arrow in an animal, that's what took real work. And so, yeah, I've missed critters. I would mess up stocks. I would make mistakes, and I'd get angry at myself. It means so much to you, and you work so hard for those opportunities, like you're saying, and you train for them all year to prepare yourself for this one moment. And then when you mess it up, it's tough not to beat yourself up over it, and even when you get proficient, like, there's still things that can go wrong. There's so many variables there, but it is about like analyzing it and learning from it, but then also like forgetting about it too, like moving on to the next one, like not dwelling on it, and you stated it earlier is like you have to have a selective memory. And so, I think of it like Kobe Bryant making a game-winning shot. Well, there was a lot of game-winning shots that he missed as well, but he'd move on to the next game. He worked extremely hard at practice harder than anybody to prepare for those moments, but he definitely isn't 100%, and you have to just forget the misses, or you analyze and learn from them, realize what you did wrong, and then you just start chasing the next opportunity because you can put a perfect arrow into that animal. And like redemption is a powerful tool when you miss. Like there's a lot of hunts that I've been on where I've had a miss or I've had something go wrong, and I'm able to like get a hold of myself, pick myself up, and go, gosh, I'm gonna I'm gonna go find another one. I'm gonna make this happen one way or another, and I'm able to fill out on that tag or on that hunt just due to my perseverance or due to like this redemption that drives me. And it sounds like you're the same way.
Yeah, and if you think about the grand scheme of why we bow hunt, I think a big piece of it is that we want to be out there. We want to be close. We want to get the full experience. And when I go rifle hunting for a cow elk, I'm not trying to brag, but just objectively over the last 8 years or so, I think I've killed a cow on the first or second day on public land in OTC, Colorado, because of bow hunting. It's made my skill level of hunting so much higher because I've had so many more days in the field than the typical rifle hunter gets. And I'm not ragging on rifle hunting at all. I think it's great. It's a lot of fun. I'm actually going to do it this year for an over-the-counter bull in Colorado, but it's why we do it. We want the full experience, and if you fail, that's part of the experience, and it just allows the experience to continue. So yeah, I used to get bogged down, and like even on a missed shot or missed opportunity, I would kind of let it snowball into the next opportunity, and then I'd screw that one up, and it was this downward spiral, and hence missing that buck 6 times in a month. But when I was in high school playing baseball, I did the same thing. If I made an error in the first inning, I'd make another 2 or 3 errors because I let it snowball. I let that negative mindset settle in, and I didn't turn the page. But then by the time I got to college, I started learning, like, dude, you got to flush it, move on, next opportunity, next at bat, next ground ball, whatever it is. And I had to go through the same process in bow hunting, because it is a game of failure in both. And now at this point, I don't really let things snowball anymore. I just kind of look at it in terms of the Jocko Willink quote, like, good. You failed, good. Move on, learn from it, fix it.
Oh, I love that, man. Yeah, I love that quote too. It is good. It's like we enjoy these difficult endeavors because of the challenge of them, and a lot of it's just between our ears and our perspective on things. And when you can come up with a good perspective and get rid of that miss, you can go out and and then make that next shot and be clutch, or be at your best. So it's such a, and it's tough to keep that perspective. It's tough not to get down after a missed stalk or a missed shot. But you're right. It's just like looking at the bigger picture, like why we're out there. And you mentioned like the rifle hunting, being able to get it done in a short amount of time. Like, these hunts are all about building our skill sets and improving. It's not about drawing some special tag or having a rifle that'll shoot 1,000 yards or a bow that'll shoot 100 yards. It's like it's bigger than that. It's like improving all these different skill sets that go into being a complete hunter. And I've always said, like, bow hunting, I just got a message the other day about a guy that had shot a bear, and he was totally stoked. He shot it with his rifle and shot it from 145 yards. And he talked about how bow hunting really helped him with rifle hunting. And bow hunting makes you such a good rifle hunter because bow hunting takes such a high skill level to be successful. Like, rifle hunting has its own challenges. You have hunting pressure, you get tough seasons to hunt these animals. You maybe don't get as many chances as you get bow season. So it's got its own set of challenges, don't get me wrong. But as far as like harvesting that animal, like, you have a real advantage with a rifle. But when you get good at bow hunting, it makes you such a deadly rifle hunter. It just, like, all of a sudden you've like upped your skill set, you've upped your skill level. So now when you take on a rifle season, you're highly successful. But yeah, I think that's like what the journey is, and something that I truly enjoy about is that I never stop learning or stop improving. It's like this ever evolving learning curve for me. And so, every season I'm wanting to be better, and wanting to be better on my stalks, on my opportunity, wanting to be better on my shots. And I'm diligent about putting in the work in the off season to improve these skill sets. And that's all the way, like we started the conversation before we recorded, like, you have a good elk tag this year and you're studying a brand new unit. Well, that's part of our skill sets of being a complete bow hunter, is to be able to figure out which units to apply for. And then when we draw those units, being able to break them down and figure out a good game plan and a backup plan of where we're going to find elk or where we're going to find mule deer in that unit. And then getting in there and spending the time scouting, like we also talked about. You're going to go over for some fishing trips with your buddy and then scout these places for elk. Like, that scouting time, like days in the field, boots to the ground, of learning the trailheads and the trails and the mountain ranges. Like, that's all part of the skills. And then, your glassing skills, your stalking skills, your shooting skills, like all that, goes into making you a complete bow hunter. And then also just developing like these killer instincts to make good decisions. And every time you harvest an animal, there's 100 right decisions that have to go into it. Like we just harvested that bear. I don't know if we were on recording or not, but that bear my buddy Dan Heverin harvested, which is so pumped for that guy, dude. Nobody works harder than that guy, and he helped me discover this drainage 10 years ago, and he's never taken a bear out of there. And he helped me 2 years ago kill a giant boar, and he was on my hip pocket as I shot it. And so, like, I really owe this guy. It's like he's my best hunting buddy. He's a great bow hunter, and it's been a few years since he's harvested a good bear. Well, this opportunity was his, and I was in his hip pocket this time. But the decisions that we had to make, Russ, to make this happen, we sat on the vantage point. We saw another black bear we decided not to go for because he disappeared in this drainage, so we sat on the vantage point. And then there was a four-wheeler or a side-by-side, which all these roads are closed in there. He's illegally driving on roads he's not supposed to drive on, and he drove right down in one of our parks where I've killed a couple bears, and so obviously blew up that. And then we saw the sow and two cubs grizzly, and Dan almost started to get down. He's like, "Oh man, side by side, grizzlies up there. Like, are we really gonna see anything?" And I'm like, "Man, we just got to stick it out. You never know what's gonna show up." And sure enough, we found a bear, and then we had to send it 2,000 feet down this slope of running down there. And it took us about 45 minutes to get to this bear, and then we got within 500 yards, and that wind was fickle. It was just blowing around everywhere. And so here we are close to this bear, closing the distance, and I'm like, man, we both said, hey, we just got to hold up here. And so we held up 15 minutes, 500 yards from this bear, and waited for the shadows to come and the downhill thermals to get consistent. And so, we played those winds and paused right there for 15 minutes in this crucial timeline to get this bear. The winds got right. We made our play up and through there, and then, we were looking for him, and then, I was able to spot him over this grassy park with a good wind, and then Dan put a perfect arrow. But there's like all these decisions that have to go into it, and I think a big part of that is like just developing our bow hunting instincts, and then all of a sudden those decisions just start to come, or you start to make them and you get them right, and animals start to fall.
Yeah, all those opportunities and stocks in the past have kind of created a blueprint in your brain, and it's almost like flow. You don't really have to think too hard about some decisions. Whereas when you first start hunting, every decision seems like this monumental decision. And once you get past that stage and you get all those reps in, it's just like, oh, I just made 100, 200 little micro decisions within the last 10 minutes to get me to this point. I didn't really even think about it. It was just autopilot. And then those higher level decisions that you have to make, those are the big ones, but there's less of them that you have to make the further into the journey you are, I think.
Oh man, you're spot on, Russ. Yeah, you're spot on. You like the way you described in flow or making these decisions. You're right. You don't overanalyze them. You just make a decision and go with it. And at first, it's like such gray areas. Like there isn't a black and white of what the right decision and wrong decision is. There's just your gut feeling of what you think, and kind of your theories on things. And yeah, you make mistakes. I think it's good to like take in as much information as you can, right? So learning from podcasts or articles or other successful hunters where you can implement some of their game plan or thought process into your own game plan. But then it really is like experience is the best teacher. And the more you're out there, the more you bow hunt, the more you pay attention, the more you learn and the better you get. And, we talked about failures is the reason I'm the bow hunter I am. It's also like experience, just so much time in the field. And I imagine it's the same for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm throughout my life, I've never been, I would say, talented. I've just been someone that through hard work can be successful, and bow hunting is a beautiful, perfect place to do that.
Yeah, that's it. And I also think it's like the more diverse experience we can get, the better we are. Like you've hunted Hawaii for axis deer. I have too. Like, hunting these different habitats, hunting different species, and even hunting elk in different habitats, or mule deer, all the way from, the foothills or badlands or breaks to the high country, like all these different habitats and these different species. I think it sharpens your skills in different ways and then makes you a better overall bow hunter, which gives you a better chance at success, whichever tag you have or whatever hunt you're embarking on.
Yeah, and as we were talking about earlier, I have this tag in a different state that I've never stepped foot in for elk this year. And at first, when I drew the tag, I was a little bit anxious. To be honest with you, I was like, oh, geez, I've never even stepped foot there. I don't know anything about that area. It's such a vast area that I can hunt. So where do I even start looking? But then once you start doing a little bit of work on the computer and spending a few hours, then all of a sudden things start coming together. You start pulling your experiences from other places. The type of hunter and the type of style that you hunt can kind of dictate what areas suit you well and what you're looking for. And then, a few hours in, you have a lot more confidence. And then when you get your feet on the ground, then it's a whole different story, because things always look a lot different on Google Earth. But yeah, it's all about time in the field and putting in the work to build that confidence. And if you don't do it, then you can't really expect it. You just get lucky.
So right. That's it. That boots to ground is so important to these places. And there's some places that are too far away that you can't scout, that, then I'll just know that, I'm going to have to spend that time early in the hunt trying to figure it out. But it's always different when you get there. Like, I think, e-scouting is so important. Getting a feel for the mountain ranges, a feel for the trailheads, a feel for where you want to go and what looks good. It is so crucial and so important to these hunts and to the planning phase. But also just as important is the scouting. Like, just even getting there and driving the roads and figuring out which roads are closed and which roads are open and which places you have access to and where the trails are. That boots to ground, even if it's just like a bonsai weekend, just a couple days of bombing into country in this place you're going to hunt, puts you so far ahead of the curve once hunting season gets there that you don't have to then spend those 2-3 days during hunting season trying to figure out where you're going to even park or where you're going to get to. And you're right, the mountain ranges always seem small on the computer of where you're going to go. And then you get there and they're just these giant mountains that you have to climb, and it's so far in between these spots you want to check out. But I do think that's such like a crucial phase or crucial part of a hunt, is like just that boots to ground and just getting a feel for the country. It just helps so much, like trying to be successful on one of these hunts.
Yeah, in terms of the magnitude of how steep something is on Google Earth versus reality, something that I've been doing for the last couple of years is I'll look at Google Earth, I'll look at topo maps, and then I'll look at places that I know well and have hiked, and I have these kind of like bars that have been set, like that is a very difficult climb, or like that slope is super steep, and I'll compare the two maps, and then it'll give me a pretty good idea of what I'm actually in for. How, like, let's say it's 3.2 miles and 2,700 feet of vert, and an area that I've hunted or hiked in the past, I can compare that to, well, then it gives me pretty good perspective.
That's a great tip.
But yeah, I'm excited to get some boots on the ground out there. It's going to be a pretty fun summer into the fall, and it just extends the season. All that scouting that we do, just it makes September quite a bit longer if you go and do the work beforehand.
It's a good point. Yeah, and I use a lot of that scouting too. It seems to help with my confidence. It's backcountry hunting, I've been doing it long enough for this backpack style hunting. I've been doing it long enough to where I feel comfortable in the mountains wherever I'm at. But in that same breath, it just seems like if you can get some of those summer scouting trips in, covering a bunch of miles, camping outside, like just being out in the woods or in the mountains. It just seems like it gets me more comfortable and ready for season and camping out. And you're right, it is a way to extend our season, and really those early season scouting trips, man, it's dang near as fun or just as exciting as bow hunting, just with the possibilities of knowing you're hunting that place, the possibilities of the animals you're seeing, and really you get almost the entire experience that you get of bow hunting. You just don't get the stock and the shot, but everything else as far as the glassing and covering miles and camping, you know, it seems to really add to my confidence going into season. Not just the country that I learned or the trails that I learned or what I learned about the unit or the animals that I saw, but it also helps my personal confidence, like just making me comfortable in the mountains and getting ready for like a big fall.
Yep, dialing in your equipment, knowing your equipment, knowing your limitations, getting your lungs in shape. I mean, there's just so many benefits to it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. There is so many benefits to boots to ground, and it's such a crucial part to like finding success. And it is tough, these units we haven't been in. Yeah, I'm planning to draw a unit this year. I haven't seen the Utah results come out yet, but I'm trying out a different general season unit. It's been quite a few years since I've been to Utah hunting, and so yeah, same thing. I'll be in that same boat as you, and I've already been e-scouting quite a bit because I kind of plan on getting the tag, even though you shouldn't count on them until you see that successful app. But been scouting it quite a bit, but it's far enough away where it's going to be tough for me to make a summer trip over there. And so definitely going to have to plan a couple extra days in the front end of this hunt to be able to make sure that I get a good feel for country. And there's times and places where it's just too far away to scout, or if it's a place that I've hunted before, it seems like I've got good experience in that unit. I've scouted it before, I've hunted it before. There's like that hunting a unit during the season that you're going to hunt, like that is such key information. So, going to a place that I've hunted, a time or two times or three times, that may give me 20 days of experience in that country. Then I can e-scout pretty effectively because I know where I found bucks in there, and I can kind of transpose that information. But even if I draw a unit that I've hunted before, even if I've had great success, I'm always trying to expand my knowledge of a unit. And so, even if I've had success, I'm going to look at that unit with a different lens now because I've got more days in it and I'm going to hunt it again. So I look to the spots that have been good to me, and then I look at how I can explore further or other places that look like that place that I can go check out. It seems like when you're a bow hunter, you have to constantly be a student of the game and constantly learning, and so that's what I try to do when I draw those units.
Definitely. And the West is so vast that, like, even the units that are around where I live, I've lived here for 9 years now, and I've put on tons of miles, countless days in all different areas, and there's still plenty of places that I haven't looked into yet. And who knows what may exist there? Who knows what animals may live there? What kind of terrain that maybe you can't quite see on Google Maps or Google Earth or on a topo map may exist. So it's pretty exciting to know that you haven't even scratched the surface of where you live, let alone some other state. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool to think about how much knowledge we'll have in 20 years from now, Brian.
Man, that's it. Yeah, same here, Russ. Like, here I've lived in this valley for 25 years, and I've explored all these different places in this valley, hunting elk and deer and bear and now moose, last season. And yeah, I killed a bull in a brand new range where I'd never taken out a bull last year, and I learned a ton, like having that moose tag and being able to look at different places in the range at different seasons. Like, I compiled a lot of information that's going to help me in future elk seasons. And like you say, I've been here 25 years and explored like every place I can go scout, I can go hunt. I've gone but there's still like more to learn. And I've got bigger plans for this year. I've got a big through hunt where I'm going to hunt downhill for like, well, it's got to be 3,000 or 4,000 vertical feet, and going to take me a couple days to make my way through this range. And going to park my dirt bike at the bottom and my truck at the top, and going to hunt all the way down through it. Like, I've just got some big plans, and where I killed this bull last year, it's like, oh, okay, now I look at this and, oh man, there's this place where I can get on this ridge line and I can go down this ridge and cover more of this terrain and cover some of this country that nobody's getting to, where now I think these elk have been pressured. Like, using the knowledge that I've gained from last season and the last 20 years, I am still learning. Like, I don't think I'll ever have it figured out, even in my home valley, which is wild.
Yep. No, it's awesome, and it's exciting. I think shed hunting helps me quite a bit too in terms of learning new areas. And I'll look up at the highest reaches of where I think bulls and bucks will be shedding, just because it's closer to where I'll be finding them in September. And it'll allow me to learn a new area. We don't have spring bear hunting here, which I wish we did. And if we did, that would be pretty great too for learning new areas. But since we don't, shed hunting is what I do in the spring to pick apart some new areas. And over the years, especially in PJ country, there's a lot of bulls that live there year round. So I've over the years kind of learned some areas in PJ country that never would have found if it wasn't for shed hunting.
What's PJ country?
Oh, pinyon juniper.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's so true. I learned so much from hunting horns too. Like, back in my early days, like 20 years ago, I think I was more hooked on hunting horns than I was actual bow hunting. And I started picking up these good sheds, and then I started, I was like, man, I really want to kill one like this with my bow. And I made this realization that, well, you got to spend more time bow hunting, and so I had to prioritize a little bit. But to your point, Russ, is that I learned so much about not like elk behavior, and where they show up, where they winter at, where they bed, where they feed. I just learned so much. And we were talking about becoming the best bow hunter we can is like experience in the field. Well, that doesn't just mean bow hunting experience in the field. It's like all this time afield is going to improve our skill set. So like the bow hunting I'm doing now, is going to help me for elk season next year. And the shed hunting that we do, it's spending time in the woods. It's trying to figure out elk or mule deer and their habits and where they feed and where they bed and where they hang out and where they winter. Like, this is all like going to help us with our experience. So it's not just getting time in September with your bow out there. It's like this year-round endeavor where whenever you can find time, you can be out scouting. And the scouting, just like we were talking about, it's everything you do hunting except for the stock and the shot. Well, that's going to improve your skills. And so, just taking it as like, trying to get as much experience in the outdoors, whether it's scouting or shed hunting or bear hunting or elk hunting or deer hunting or whatever it is. This is all going to go into making you a better bow hunter, and then it's going to give you a better chance at success, when you do draw a tag or when you have a hunt coming up.
For sure. And a hot tip for your younger listeners too, I definitely recommend putting in the miles before you have kids, because once you have kids, you have a lot less time. But fortunately, I did put in those miles when I was a young guy, so I don't need to look in. I mean, I've got 20 elk spots in my back pocket that I know there'll be elk in, and I don't have to scout. I just know that in September they're going to be in those areas, and if they're not, I look in the next year and I've got 19 more. So I think a big piece of the puzzle too is when you don't have as many responsibilities, to get out and just explore as much country as you can, learn as much country as you can, and then down the road it'll be like a piggy bank of information that you can draw upon when you don't have all that time.
I definitely draw upon the piggy bank like you're talking about as well, and used a lot of past knowledge. But it's also like being creative with your time. Like I know, you're going to spend a lot of time bow hunting this year. You're going to spend time scouting. And sometimes it's just being creative. It's like I can take my family for a camping trip where I have a tag, and I can wake up at 4 in the morning and go do a hike in the morning and scout, and I'm back by 9 or 10 o'clock to have breakfast and hang out with the family during the day or whatever the case is. But just be creative too. Involve your family, and you do have to be more well-rounded when you have a family, and make sure that you're spending that quality time with the kids and with the wife. And so I think that is a great tip. But as we get older too, it's just being creative and finding the time to get out in the woods.
I'm excited for that stage. My kids are still a little bit too tiny to take camping. They're this summer we'll do a little bit just to get their feet wet, but they're 3 and 1, so I'm sure some people are like, well, I'd take my 1-year-old camping, but we've got 2 pretty difficult children, and they're great kids, but they're a handful. So I think this summer we'll get them started camping, and next summer will be the first summer we really can start doing that a bit more. I'm excited for it. Can't wait to look for bucks with my son, especially.
Yeah, I hear you. You do have to cater your trips and experiences to the age and the of your kids, and you also you can't put it all on your wife to take care of those kids while you're out scouting the whole time as you drive her insane, and then she didn't have fun on the camping trip. So you definitely have to cater your trips to them. But yeah, as they get older, you're definitely going to get time in the field with them, and get them out to those places. But yeah, it really is like gaining that experience in whatever you can do, and then also just being a student of the game. And not every trip, not every hunt works out either. It's like part of being a public land hunter is we have to take chances on these units and on these hunts. And I don't run 100% success, and you have to take chances and put yourself out there. So it's applying for these tags or applying for these hunts in these places you don't know. And it's scary when you're going to a place that you've never been or a place you don't know. You're starting from scratch. It can be a bit overwhelming. And me and you, like, I mean, it's definitely present in mind with me drawing this new unit in Utah, you drawing that elk tag, places that we've never been that we have to figure out. But we've done it before. You imagine, like, or if you can think back to the first new place that you went, man, you're just like in over your head almost. But it's those experiences that really help you learn how to figure out a new place in a new area. And that, we were talking about bow hunting skill sets. It's like you don't want to get stuck in a rut. Like you were talking, you have 20 different elk spots that you hunt. Well, you're pretty safe with 20 different spots. You're going to find one of those that produces. But a lot of times we get caught in a rut where we find a good drainage or we find a good elk spot or mule deer spot, and we go in there and we harvest a buck, and maybe we harvest another buck the next year, or it's like good success and it's like the best elk hunting we've ever seen in there. But things change. Hunting pressure changes things. People find out about it. Maybe the conditions were different that summer, and so things change. And then you go into this spot that's been so money to you the 15th of September, and there's no elk in there. And
Yep.
you almost feel lost. And so you got to be careful not to get caught in a rut of hunting one good spot. And you have to build your skill set at like being able to find new units and new spots. I think it's like one of the best skill sets you could have is like being able to go to a new place and dial it in and figure it out and find critters. Like that is a really like underappreciated skill that you have to master to be able to hunt the West.
Yeah, knowing when to turn the page is huge. I think like it totally varies on terrain and habitat for me. Like where I hunt bucks, there's quite a bit of timber, and if I'm not seeing them, it doesn't mean they're not there. But elk, on the other hand, if you're not seeing steaming hot scat and tracks and fresh sign, you're not in the right spot. So you got to keep moving, and that's something that I used to do, is like hunt ghosts. Like, yeah, I killed a bull here in the past, and there was great rutting action on these dates, and then maybe 2 years in a row you have those same experiences, and then all of a sudden it just gets cold, or maybe the dates kind of change a little bit and you're not in the zone. and then you're hunting ghosts. But turning the page and just, being confident enough in your next spot to be like, I think that's worth looking into compared to where I'm at right now. Definitely comes into handy with elk and deer too when it's open country. That late season mule deer hunt that I do, it's vast and it's open, and I just keep covering country until I find them. I don't hang on to past haunts there where there may be a buck that shows up. Yeah, they move a lot of country every day, but you got to move too. You can't just stay in one spot and expect them to funnel through it.
So true. I don't do good when I'm waiting for animals to show up. I got to go find them. It's just like my method of operation. You make a good point too about not hunting ghosts. It's like, if they're not there, you definitely can't hunt them. And like you say, like your timbered country that you hunt mule deer is a bit different, where those mule deer in there. But there's a lot of country that doesn't hold game. They're like in pockets of country, and two, it's like, you were talking about fresh tracks and sign of elk, and how that really dictates. It was like, I just got back from this Australia hunt, and hunting these sandbar in thick terrain and thick country. You have to still hunt through for hours in this country, and the moment you lose focus, you spook one of those things up, one of those sandbar up. But one of the things I really took away from there, well, there's a couple things, but one of the things that I really took away from there is my buddy Josh is so good at tracking and sign and being able to put a timestamp on how long that sign was. And how he taught me to hunt these sandbar is to hunt through, and you kind of still hunt looking for them, but you're really looking for the sign. And once you start to cut those fresh tracks and that fresh sign, you slow down, and then you hunt into a sandbar stag or a does or hinds, or it's like you really hunting the sign. And it just made me like hyper aware. It made me better at reading sign and the timestamp of that sign. And I think it's the same thing as hunting elk and mule deer. Like if they're in there, you're gonna see the sign or see them. And really dialing that in, and also I use it in my scouting for elk, looking for scrapes or rubs or wallows. Like I know they'll be rutting in that area. And, for deer, looking for big tracks and knowing that that's a buck track in the area. And especially those fresh snows and being able to glass tracks and just trying to dial it in, because the animals aren't spread out throughout the landscape. They're in pockets of country. And so you have to figure out where those pockets are. And sure, the best way to figure out what those pockets are to glass it and to see a muley buck there. But there's also other signs that are there, like the tracks or like the scrapes or the rubs or the trails. And I think it's like taking in that information and processing it and trying to figure out where those animals are and where those pockets are.
For sure. That sounds like a heck of an adventure, Brian. Would you say that was the most difficult animal that you've ever bow hunted?
Yeah, it's definitely up there. Yeah, like they were really challenging and tough. I mean, the only thing I had is like I'm hunting with one of the best sandbar hunters around, and so like being able to learn from them,
Mm-hmm.
and like to go on a hunt, I'd go solo, we'd split off, but we'd also hunt together, and just being able to dial into his pace, the places that he was hunting, I was able to learn an immense amount of information about the species, which helped me be successful.
Cool. Yeah, I heard you talking with Dan on your other podcast about that, and it's definitely something that's on my bucket list. Probably New Zealand first, but I'd like to hunt Australia at some point down the road. That'd be awesome.
New Zealand is so fun. There's a lot of opportunity, man, and a lot of opportunity for like this hunting that we do in the States, like the do it yourself, the public ground. Like, man, hunting tahr in New Zealand is amazing. Like, we don't get to hunt sheep and goat species too often. The tags are just so tough to draw, but to be able to go there and to hunt Himalayan tahr in the southern Alps of New Zealand in this extreme remote terrain was amazing, man. Being able to dial that in and test my skills out there. And then also there's some great free range red deer. That was like the first red deer stag that I saw that was a free range one. Was a great stag. He'd look like about a 5 point bull or something. But to be able to chase him roaring was really cool. And then I got the chance to go hunt fallow deer there, and thanks
So
to
cool.
Remy, he had like a really good spot that he set me up. Like we paid like a trespass fee, and it was like 300,000 acres of low fence or no fence, like free range fallow deer, and that was just absolutely amazing. We hit the croak or their rut just perfect, but
Wow.
yeah, it's a pretty cool experience being able to travel international and take that on. And really, it definitely had to save some money and budget for it, but it just wasn't that bad compared to other hunts, especially when you like go and figure it out. So yeah, man, it's amazing. You'd love New Zealand. Yeah, it's definitely an adventure.
Especially with fly fishing too there. I mean, it's like everything that both of us love in one place.
Oh, it is, man. I'm so torn. Like they have the biggest browns, the biggest fish in the world. It was just tough. I went out there that my first trip out there was like 2 weeks, and I went back and forth to load up my rods or not load up my rods, and I ended up focusing on hunting out there. But I did walk like this one river system that's world famous for trout, and just this teal blue glacial fed river, and I got to walk up it and just like peer in these holes. And I didn't get to do any fishing there, but the next time I go back, yeah, I want to plan a long enough trip where I can take a couple weeks and focus on. I really want to do a New Zealand fishing trip, man. They're just so big there, and then so many beautiful streams to fish.
Yeah, I in my profession, I see a lot of dead people being an EMT, and some of them are young, some of them are old, and every time I go on a call where someone's moved on into the next life, if there is one, um, it makes you think about how short this one is, and you just need to take advantage of it. It could be gone in a flash. Last year I broke my ankle. I was able to dunk 1 minute in a basketball game, and then the next minute I couldn't walk for 2 months. I was in a bed. So I mean, life can change in a blink. I'm not saying that breaking an ankle is like dying, but it's just crazy how bad things can get in a very short period of time. And then you'll never get to do what you wanted to do if you don't take advantage of those moments that you do have the opportunities. So yeah, I'm wanting to get out and explore and get as many of these experiences as I can and all these memories built.
So true. Man, it can change in an instant, and you have to think about it that way and try to make the most out of this life and make the most out of every day, really. And yeah, take the plunge on some of these trips. And, it's, not only can your life change, but life passes by pretty quick. It's like, a year goes by pretty quick, 5 years goes by, 10 years goes by. Like, man, none of us are getting any younger, and we just have to work hard to enjoy this life and get the most out of it. And we do have to be responsible, and we have to be providers for our family, and there's like responsibility that goes along with life, but we also have to look out for our mental, like our happiness in life, and making sure that we are doing the things that we have passion for and the things that we love. And it does, like, you can always say, oh, next year I'm going to do this, or next year I'm going to do it, and then next year comes and it's, oh, I don't have time this year. Like, we are all so busy with life, but we're so much better off when we just take the plunge and go for it, like your elk hunt you're doing this year, and like your season. And two, there's like, I love being able to travel internationally or to these wild places, but there's so much opportunity right here in the States where we have our vehicles and we have all the gear we need. And, really it's a $300 deer tag or $400 deer tag, or, $1,000, which is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. But when you're just putting gas in your rig and buying a little bit of food, you can do these wild, amazing adventures for $1,000 or for $1,500 or whatever the cost is. And yeah, it almost changes you as a person, and it like resets. Like, I'm sure you get some of the same benefits mentally out of like bow hunting and going on these adventures, you almost feel like a different person when you get back, and you feel recharged to go to work and be at your best, or to be at your best with your family. Like, man, it's what we truly love to do, and we just have to find the time or commit to doing some of these adventures, whatever we can afford. And like, I've come to the realization I'm probably not going to go all over the world sheep hunting, for dolls and stone sheep and desert sheep. Maybe I'll get lucky and draw a tag someday, but I've also realized that there are these amazing adventures that are available for all of us, for elk and mule deer and antelope and bears. And really, it's just about making the commitment and making it a priority and then going on it.
Totally. When I went to Hawaii and hunted axis, when I got back, I told my wife I want to do that every year. Well, it's been, I think, 3 years now, and I haven't gone back. So priorities have trumped that trip, and having little kids and being a dad and a husband and having to provide has trumped that. But in the near future, I definitely want to get back. And those are the experiences that I think when you die, you look back on, you're like, wow, I did that. That was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it is those experiences. And we do, we can't throw, we do have responsibilities as fathers and as husbands, and we have to make that a priority in our life as well. And there are things that are crossed off the list. Like, sure, I'd like to write a big check for some of these hunts and go on these things, but it's just not feasible or responsible for me to do so, with my family. And so, we have to pick and choose. And, I get to hunt a ton. I'm like the last person that should be complaining about anything, and I'm not. But I just, I just realized that, there are cuts and there are sacrifices that I have to make sure that I'm doing the right thing for my family. And then, and then they support me in my passions and in the trips I want to go on, that I make a priority. And, I have discussions with my wife about them and with my kids, and, they're able to handle things while I'm gone and take care of things. But it definitely is a balance of these bow hunting adventures and then our responsibilities with work and family.
Yep. And you're doing a great job of it and setting a good blueprint for me to follow. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, likewise, man. Yeah, no, you're hunting a bunch of cool places, and you're really getting to be a great bow hunter, clutching those moments. I always enjoy having you on the podcast. Like, these conversations are so in depth, and you're so tuned in to the bow hunting world, man. It's just really fun for me.
Well, likewise, man. I credit a lot of my, I guess, beginner success in Western bow hunting to you from listening to Eastman's Elevated, especially like when it first came out. I listened to every single episode, and I still listen quite a bit, but I was like just hungry to learn as much as I could from you. And not that I've stopped learning from you, but I've from the experiences and from listening to podcasts and everything over the years that I've done to learn and get better, you've been a big piece of that puzzle, and I appreciate you, man.
Oh, likewise, man. Yeah. Excuse me. I wasn't getting choked up by what you said, but it was no, it's amazing, Russ. Well, it's all just due to your love for it, and your passion for it. And when you love something like that, you put so much effort in. You're so hungry to learn that you take that information in. But it's really like the information is out there. It was you that decided that you wanted to improve and get better. It was you that decided, like, your love for it and to work at it, take in this information and apply it to your own hunting. Like, the information is out there, but you have to be hungry and have to want it. Put in the effort, put in the time, sacrifice to be able to learn, to get proficient at it. And you've definitely done that.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah. Well, right on, man. Yeah, that's a podcast. Thanks again for joining me today. And then, we'll get this out in a couple weeks or so. But yeah, I really enjoy these conversations, and wish you nothing but good hunting this year on that elk tag and on your home range deer tag. And I'll definitely be following along to see how you do.
Thanks, Brian. And do you have any late season mule deer planned too?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I've got
Okay.
some late season mule deer plans. I've got a couple tags in my pocket, so it should be really fun and really good. They're tough to kill during the rut, aren't they?
Man. So last year I killed 2 bucks in the late season in like 4 days of hunting on 2 different trips, and I planned like 9 days on the first trip, and I was only there for 2. Um, and you plan 9 because you can go 15 and not kill one. And last year, just kind of the stars aligned, and maybe I'm getting better at the whole thing, but it's not easy, and that's why I love it so much. It's probably my favorite thing to do at this point.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites as well, if not the favorite. Yeah, it's good on you. You're definitely getting better and improving your skill set, which gives you a better chance at success when you get those opportunities or create those opportunities. So there's no doubt about that. But you are right as well, as it can take 9 days or 15 days. And sometimes during that rut, like you see bucks and you get opportunities, but they're constantly moving and you've got the does to worry about. And you've also got like the tough weather. If it snows a bunch and gets crunchy, or the snow can make it tough to move around, or there's all these different variables that go into it. And the later in November you get, the better the rut is, but also the tougher the weather can get. And so there's just all these variables into it. And so sometimes hunting late season mule deer can be the toughest challenge. And I think last year, yeah, I mean, I had a couple states. I was trying to finish my house in November, so a lot of my late season hunting happened late October, early November, and then I did get another quick trip in December, but I had quite a few days into late season muleys last year, and I did not fill my tag. I was able to kill an early season muley, but didn't get a late season one, so it's always an extreme challenge for me. You're so tough to get it done, and can be such a humbling experience, But that's what keeps me coming back, and I love the action and love chasing those hardhorn bucks. And during the rut, there just isn't much more thrilling hunting out there to do than hunting a late rut hunt with our bows.
Yeah, and in terms of dates, I wanted to get your opinion on this. I kind of plan 2 hunts out there every year, like an earlier November and a later November. And I found that like in that 5th to 10th of November, you'll find those bucks kind of cruising, looking for does, especially that 4 or 5-year-old range. Whereas in October, you don't see them at all. And then like around the 5th, the 10th, they start cruising. You can find them, but they're not in big groups. And they don't have a harem of does where they've got like 15, 20, 40 does I've seen with one buck in the past. So I almost think that that's the best time if you can time it right. And it obviously varies on the area that you're in, but where I've been hunting about the 5th, 10th range, like that, I killed a 30-incher this year that was kind of dogging some does, but bouncing around from group to group. They weren't really ready for him. So, he was bedding up in the hills by himself. And that's the only reason I was able to kill him, because I think if he had 30 does, I don't think I stood a chance to get in on him.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Russ. I think it can definitely differ from place to place, but those are my money dates. Like, as they're like that pre-rut, or right when they're first getting into rut, and not every group of does has a buck with them, and the bucks, like you were talking about, start traveling country by themselves, and so a lot of times you can catch a buck by himself or bedding by himself. And so I love those dates you're talking about, the 5th to the 10th, and I've actually, probably killed the majority of my late season bucks in those dates, or at least around those dates. I also will find good success around the 1st to the 5th. And then I do have some spots late October that are good as these bucks start to get to their rut zones, or they're starting to prep for the rut, but they're not with the does yet. And I actually have in a couple different locations, close to where you hunt, and then other places I have where I do good when they're staging for the rut, because the bucks are really focused on feeding and like hanging with another buck or hanging by themselves. And where I see them come out, they're kind of hanging out right in that area. And so if I can figure out where the bucks are that time of year, I've actually got like almost a better chance at killing them before they're even starting rutting in that like pre-rut. And then definitely that pre-rut, once that action starts and those bucks start to move around 5th to 10th, I always do good. Now in the country that I hunt, I don't see the bigger groups or see those bucks get locked down like you're talking about. Like, I mean, I guess I have seen them in bigger groups or a buck that's tending to a bunch of does that's tough to kill. But I do really good from the 10th to the 20th prime rut dates as well. It seems like the bucks are more on the move. It seems like they're on their feet all day, and so you can't really bet them and get a play. It seems like they're really tough to get a read on. Like it's almost like you see a buck and then almost hunt them like elk, where you get over there and then adapt to where they're at and just have to hunt them almost in real time, where it's not this calculated, methodical, planned out play on them.
Mm-hmm.
So I end up doing a lot of that. But I find some good hunting the 10th to the 20th. But you know, it's like all these species have similar tendencies and habits and behaviors, but it can be different from area to area. So you've definitely dialed in your area where you know where your good dates are, that you don't find them in October staging for the rut, so that's not a play for you. You find them in that early November when they're first starting to rut, first starting to look for their does, and then they get held up with those bigger groups later in the rut and get way tougher to kill. And now that I'm like talking my way through this, I have found spots in like December where they're still rutting, but they are those big groups of does where they're really tough to get in on, and that buck's like kind of watching those does. So I mean, I guess I have seen that at times in different areas, but yeah, that's kind of my experience with them.
Cool. Yeah, definitely very similar, but you're a little more north, so who knows, things could be a little bit different there. But yeah, it's it's just the month that I wish I could be out there all month. But like we said, responsibilities and being a good dad is important.
Yep, balance, man. That's it. So yeah, well, right on, man. Thanks so much for joining me today. Thanks so much for your friendship. Make sure to keep in touch this season, and then yeah, wish you nothing but good hunting.
Likewise, Brian. Thanks a lot, man, and thanks for those tidbits earlier on before we started.
Yep, no worries, my pleasure. Make sure to pass on your number too. I thought I had your number saved in my phone. For some reason, I don't. I thought we had texted back and forth, but make sure to pass that on to me as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right, thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Brian. Thanks, man. Have a good day.
You too. Okay, bye.
Bye.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Fun conversation with Russ. It's learning these new units, learning these new places, like being able to explore is like I get so much enjoyment out of it, and it really pulls at me each and every year. So I love hunting these new places, hiking new places, hunting new places, trying to dial them in and figure them out. So it just made for a great conversation. Thanks again to Russ for coming on the podcast and sharing so much great information. And thanks to our sponsors. So Matthews at New Phase 4 is so quiet, shooting so good for me. I know you guys would like it. Just go out if you're looking for a new bow and just shoot all the new bows just to get a feel for them, you know. And I guarantee that like this Matthews, it just shoots so smooth, so accurate, so forgiving. So go check those things out. Go check out Sig Sauer Optics. They've got those new image stabilizing binos that are just amazing with their high-end glass. These things are going to be a game changer for me this year. So check those out. Check out Black Rifle Coffee Company, their coffee subscriptions. Check out Black Ovis Internet Retail Shop. Elevated 10's your code there to save 10%. And also Camo Fire, a bunch of new hunting deals that come up every 24 hours. And yeah, make sure to check out that new podcast, Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal Podcast Edition. I'm doing it with Dan Picard. They're all really good episodes. I'm releasing episode 6 tomorrow, so you got to search its own feed and find it in a new feed. And yeah, hoping we can make a go at this thing. They're just such great in-depth conversations, really centered around archery, and we can dive deeper down the rabbit hole and get into some of the nuances of it. And also just a great chemistry between Dan and I. So really enjoying putting those together, and a new episode drops tomorrow. And with that, man, oh man, just been working, just crazy busy here, trying to get this podcast out to you guys. Man, construction hasn't really slowed down. I know I talked about going full time in the hunting industry, and that still is my plan. It's just I've got so many families and my partner in the business that have counted on me for so many years. So I really got to finish up these jobs that I'm working on, these clients that I'm working for, and then just set up the business for success. And so, I'm trying to take more responsibility off my plate, but we're so short-handed with employees right now. We just lost some really good carpenters, and we've got a new kid and a guy that's been with us forever. But really, it's coming down to my partner and I getting a lot of the work done. So having to be on site, wake up super early in the morning, get my podcast stuff done, and then staying up late in the evening trying to get book work and paperwork done. So I'm burning the candle at both ends, but I do have a hunting trip coming up to Hawaii, which is going to be amazing with really good friends. I bought my tickets the other day, and then I've got a really full season. Pulled some lucky draws this year, and ended up with some really good tags. So I'll be hunting mule deer and elk and antelope, and really got a full season. So just trying to set myself up right, get done with my responsibility, and things are good. Like mentally, I'm in a pretty good place. Like, gosh, I think after doing my house and all those projects and stress load, I about broke my brain again. But I'm recovered now and feeling good. Getting in runs and training, I'm fitting that in between my busy schedule. Like, probably should have got more work done last night, but it's just like got to get in a run too. Bow's been shooting really good. Haven't been able to bear hunt quite as much as I like to. I was going pretty hard there in the mid-season when it turned on. We got Dan that bear, and then I've hunted a few days after that, but just trying to wrap up a house, and so it's been all hands on deck on that thing. And then the afternoon evenings have been pretty like rainy and clouded in, which doesn't lend itself to good hunting for me. And I've gone out and still hunted in the rain a bit, but yeah, it's been a bit slow. It's still really good hunting right now. I just need to get out, and I've got a few days planned here for the end of the season, so we'll go out, and it's got to be a pretty good bear to get me excited. But I am looking forward to just walking around the woods with my bow a little bit more. So keep chasing those bears, and who knows what'll happen? Maybe I'll catch a giant out there. So yeah, it's just time is time. Like none of us have enough of it. It seems like time is the precious commodity, and also supporting a household and a family and spending time with them as well is so important. It's such a balance in life, and yeah, bear hunting took a bit of a hit this year, but it's all good. I still got quite a few days of field. I must be up to like maybe 12 days field so far. So I've got some good days out, and just need to keep after it here and see if I can't arrow one, get a buzzer beater here towards the end of the season. So fun to be out in the mountains, and all good, just busy here, and living the lifestyle I want to live, and definitely trying to set myself up for hunting season. But great podcast with Russ. Thanks to you guys and all your support. Man, I haven't been great on social media here lately. I need to make some more posts on there. It's just like, it seems like when I get super busy, that's what kind of goes by the wayside. But I need to continue to get some decent posts and decent content out there. And definitely getting some good recordings and fitting that in. It's good that I have good friends and good people I can count on and hit up in the hunting industry, and make sure that I'm getting good podcasts for you guys. So I just really want to set you guys up for success this season, so we can all just have a good adventurous season, and kind of get a good reset on our lives. And man, it's what we truly love to be, is be in the mountains and be bow hunting. So that's what the carrot at the end of my nose is for, is like just to go get that good hunting here, there, and everywhere. So I'm going to keep working hard, keep getting you guys out podcasts. Again, thanks for all the support. Remember, subscribe, and check out that new podcast, Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal Podcast Edition, and leave reviews, and shares on social media. They really help out. I really appreciate them. I try to share anybody that shares the podcast on my feed. So, yeah, if you get a chance and you enjoyed one of the podcasts, make sure to share it. It really helps me out. And with that, I'll check in with you guys next week.